What's up, guys and gals? It's time for the latest chapter. Still, as far as I know, the latest chapter of Strike It Rich, chapter 53. For those of you who don't know why it's so late, there's a video on the channel about that. Anyways, we actually have to go through this chapter for a change instead of like a quick 6 minute, it was this, that, the other thing. Because there's something I really don't like about the chapter, but I really overall like the chapter. Okay? So basically, we ended off the same way we ended off, or we started off the same way we ended off the last chapter, is that Hina got her absolute shit wrecked, and both Yukihira and Yuzua were unable to even register the counter in the first place. And this is Hina, right? The unstoppable force. And because this is the first star, Sheena. And it's like, alright, Sheena's here. And it's like, alright, sort of idea. And managed to counter her, didn't seem to break Hina's nose, but obviously created a nosebleed sort of idea. And immediately she's going in with the whole, oh my god, and this is the part I hate, okay? Let's get this out of the way. The whole chapter, oh my god, do you need this? Do you need that? Oh, I'm so sorry, Hina. I didn't mean to do that, blah, blah. Like, basically, I'm actually a cool, calm, collective businesswoman. I'm a boss bitch who needs no man sort of idea. But then obsessive over their little sister as this, weird trait and stuff like that. I don't like I've never liked this trope. I don't like this trope, and it works about, I'm going to argue, about 10 to 20% of the time, depending on the situation and the character. But it's been a bit overused in recent years, especially now with the female characters, that, when it's done with the male, it's considered really creepy and pervy and stuff like that. So the flip of it is, in the last, I would argue, 7 to 5 years, is that they flipped the narrative and given the very creepy, pervy, obsessive traits that are unattractive to female boss bitches, boss babes. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, and it wasn't attractive on the men, it's not attractive on the women. You know what I mean? So, anyways, because at the end of the day, creepy behavior is still creepy behavior. I don't care who it comes from. You know what I mean? So, no, I don't like this this character trait, and I immediately was turned off by this. But then she only does this for a quick half a page, and then one more panel about it, and then it's sort of over. So for the most part, I still like the chapter. I don't like that this is Sheena's whole thing, like, oh my god, I can't believe I kicked you. I'm so sorry. Here's this. Here's that. Are you okay? Do you need a doctor? Do you need me to lay under rest? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So either way, she explains she's not able to keep her cool when it comes to, she's my cute little sister and I'm obsessed with her, blah, blah, blah. The whole obsession trope, it was never put it to you this way, top 100 manga characters of all time, not a single person with that obsessive trait is likely to be on there. I can't say definitively, but pretty close to definitively, yeah. In the same way that a lolly is never going to be on that list, I'm pretty confident in this one. So, anyways, so she explains that, we both grew up, she's not hiding it, we both grew up in an orphanage together and stuff like that, and Hina even admits, I haven't told anybody about that. They talk about it a little bit there, I was the eldest, I was the older sister, and Hina actually happened to be the youngest. Now, does this go against anything? Is Rei technically slightly older than Hina? Is Hina actually the youngest of all the star children? Potentially. Okay, we're going to go off on this list that Sheena, as the first star, is actually the oldest, and Hina is the youngest, even though that she's ranked up a little bit higher and stuff. Then we get that really weird panel, so darling, so lovely, so cute. It's Setsuna in a female form, and it's still not cool. Alright? So, anyways, moving on. Anyway, they say to leave these two to talk and stuff like that. It's like, listen, you guys probably got a lot to talk about. We'll, you two are orphanage sisters. We'll see you guys later. We'll be waiting on the first floor. So then they're just like, all right, it's all good. So immediately after they leave, Sheena asks, she gets in serious mode, and she says, so, are you looking to reach for the stars with me, Hina? And says, honestly, the whole charade is so foolish. And then goes on to say, Hina immediately says, well, you never had any intention of reaching for the stars, did you? And she said, no, not at all. Because what's the point of being queen of a miniature garden? We don't know what this garden is exactly. You know, when they refer to a miniature garden, they could be talking about like owning like New World Order level, like owning the underground of the entire globe. But to her, that's a miniature garden. We don't know what the extent here is exactly, right? But because by the looks of it, these women were trained to basically be winter soldiers, and you know, sort of idea from like Marvel. And you know, if we're gonna take that into account, as I said, this is really following a very Bloody Monday path, albeit not as good, but still going in that same vein. That the miniature garden was literally the takeover in that one was literally taking over a lot. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, in this same sense, she's like, no. I'm not interested in being the queen of a miniature garden. But then she says, look at this, Hina. I was the one to start up Fancy Fight while I was attending college. It's gone pretty well. And I started it, you know, it was the first female, where it's implied that it's the first female underground ring that actually took off. And saying that our audience have grown, and they've actually grown even better because Valkyria exists now. Female fighters are going to take to the underground world by a storm. Like, because of your guys' new ring and stuff like that, like, you've helped my own business in Fancy Fight, so this is fantastic. And says, yeah. Now, she admits, Fancy Fight is my own miniature garden. What I'm saying is, I would rather act as the manager. I don't want to be under anyone's thumb, least of all that woman's, and referring to the teacher. So confirm that the female that we saw with the big star and stuff like that, the leader of the cult, is a woman. And so she seems to know a little bit more than Hina. Albeit not much, because she immediately after saying this, saying, like, yeah, like, I don't want to be queen of any miniature garden. However, like, it's contradictory because we don't know all the facts. Because she says, Fancy Fight is my own miniature garden where I'm the manager, not the queen. However, I don't want to be the queen of the other miniature garden, which is strange, because who's above the queen? Well, you could argue the king, but if she's a woman, she's the queen. So we need more information here, because she seems to be content with being in charge of Fancy Fight. I assume that what we're trying to say here is that she doesn't mind being the queen or manager, whatever you, president, whatever you want to call it. She doesn't mind having control of her own miniature garden as long as it was of her design and her choice. She never wants to take over whatever reaching for the stars means, whatever garden that the teacher of the orphanage tried to make them do. Sheena wants nothing to do with that garden. She's okay with doing the opposite and owning her own piece, but just nothing related to the own, so she's not under her thumb. You know, I'm going to read between the lines and assume that's what she's trying to say, because otherwise it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't want to be the queen of a garden, but I am the queen of this garden. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm the manager. Like, fuck off, you know what I mean? So I'm going to assume that's what was trying to be implied here, and it's just lost a little bit in the translation of the dialogue. Now, this is where Hina says, oh, you mean our teacher and stuff like that? It's like, well, do you remember our teacher? She goes, no, I don't. And she said, well, neither do I. I can't recall her face, her voice, her age, her name, nothing. It took me quite a while till I realized that I'd forgotten everything that I had. Perhaps the House of the Stars has us under some kind of spell, hypnotic suggestion. This whole reaching for the stars deal could be the exact same thing. So Sheena is very perceptive here in thinking, we might be on the end of somebody else's puppet strings, and I intend full well to try to break those strings. I'm down with it. I'm good with that, you know what I mean? And she wants to expose this woman and get her for doing this. We don't know what exactly went on in the orphanage, but yeah, once again. So I would argue that Sheena right now is the J from Bloody Monday. She's the J character. She actually kind of has the same aura and kind of style, you know what I mean? So yeah, she's definitely the J of Bloody Monday when it comes to the Star Children. And that sums it up very well. If you've read Bloody Monday, it really works in this context, and I'm for it. Because she said, well, Now, here's the deal. If you guys stand in my way, like even if they're my little sisters, I'm going to start a fire, and sparks are going to fly, and I'll stomp you out regardless what sparks come out of that fire, you know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, cool. So she's giving Hina a fair warning and stuff like that. Now, she also mentions, if you want to fight, though, I will oblige you after I've done my mission, after I've eliminated everything else in my way. Once, basically, to her mind, I assume, once she gets the teacher, once she eliminates this whole reaching for the stars plan, she's like, Hina, I will fight you. I promise, at the end of everything, I will be your opponent. And then Hina's like, yeah, all right, perfect. Then try not to fumble anything. You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking forward to it sort of idea. And we get this very ominous aura about that. So, at the very least, Hina does have an opponent at the end of her road to look forward to who can likely kick her ass. Now, I'm not going to go on a limb here and say the 8th star, the Overseer, knows what the fuck she's talking about here. Okay? Not that Hina probably doesn't have some crazy, like, devil mode that'll be awakened that we've never fully seen. Like, she's never gone 100% exactly. But we go back to the woman's prison at the end of the chapter. And she talks about that Sheena and Hina met up. And they're apparently not reaching for the stars, which is apparently them engaging in battle. Reaching for the stars seems to imply basically meeting up with all the other stars and eliminating each of the stars until there's only one star left. Sheena is not interested in doing that, and Hina clearly is just like waiting for a good opponent, so she's not interested in it either. So they're talking about it, and they're like, oh, so they're not going to fight and stuff like that. She mentioned that Hina might have been able to take one of Sheena's arms at the very least. From what we saw, I would say abso-fucking-lutely not. That being said, we don't know Hina's full capacity, I would argue, even up to this point. So maybe in a fight to the full death, but if Sheena were to know that Hina was going to go full on berserk mode or whatever she has, I assume that Sheena would kick her ass, you know what I mean? And then, like, kill her. Or maybe the Overseer is, the 8th star here is relying on the fact that Sheena does have this level of care for Hina and wouldn't actually go all out. Like, she would just pull back almost at the last second. Like, her death blows would be just slightly pulled back involuntarily, and that's what she'd bet on. Either way. Alright, so now, fact of the matter is that we're bringing up another psycho. And I'm just like, how many psychos do we need to bring? You know? We have so many psychos that I'm sitting here like, another psychotic female fighter from the prison. It's like, you want them smashed? I'll smash them. I'm the cracker. You know? And it's like, yeah, you just let loose and stuff like that. You go out there, and she's interested in being the last one. Whatever you have, Hina, I'm taking that all for myself and stuff like that. So the 8 star is obviously very interested in doing what she does. But of course, they have the full docket of being able to release certain prisoners to her choice to go fight in the female rings and stuff like that. And we have another, ha ha ha, I'm absolutely nuts, ha ha ha. We've had like 6 of those in this series. I'm not that interested. A big bulky woman who's half nuts with her head cocked to the side. You know what I mean? I have no thoughts about this character. I'm hoping to be surprised. But how many, psychotic crazy bitch am I going to have to endure? Like, why can't we just have a few more, I'm just a really good martial artist? Like, why can't I have a karaoke, like a female karaoke? Why can't I have a female Gao Lang who's actually good? Like, we introduced those early in the series, but they got their asses kicked. I want to see, like, a female version of Gao Lang. You know what I mean? Who's just true to the martial arts and stuff like that. Who doesn't necessarily need to be a psychopath. Why is 90% of the cast filled with psycho women? You know what I mean? I'm just not... Like, it's fine to have our cast filled, and I like some of them, but now we introduced a new fighter, and she's the literally same thing. And so, the chapter was kind of like, as I said, I didn't mind the chapter because it progressed a lot of things. It led us to know a lot more about the orphanage, Reach for the Stars, the teacher, etc., and about the first star and her plans and stuff like that. So, and we're learning more about the 8 star. So we're learning a lot of stuff. But there's 2 things I don't like. I don't like Sheena's, obsessive, creepy thing, and I also don't, because it's just been so overdone. And I don't also like the new fighter introduced, because it's the same fucking template we've been using for the last 50 chapters, and I'm just like, oh, all right, again, okay, I'm sure she's just like the one who got her face clawed off by a bear. Okay, she's psycho. I get it. Whatever. I've already seen this fight. I've seen this fighter. I've seen it in the last 6 fights. I'm good. I don't need to see it again. So, anyways, but that's it for me. What do you guys think of the chapter? Like, comment, and subscribe as always. Sorry that this was once again really late, but I'm just getting over my medical issues and stuff like that, and hoping to be fully on the mend here sooner rather than later. So yeah. Anyways, that's it for me. Chapter 54, I assume, is coming out really, really soon. But as far as I'm aware, this is still the latest chapter, and now we're all caught up once again. So, like, comment, subscribe, everybody. Hope you have a good one, and we'll see you back here next time. See ya!